This week on Planet Internet, Eat the Rich, we're talking layoffs and payoffs at Booking.com and American Airlines, the massive petition to stop Jeff Bezos from returning to Earth. We're assessing the fallout from China's ban on crypto mining, and we're looking at the latest updates to TikTok for single people, Tinder. And last but not least, we'll be reviewing our favorite tech stories, apps, products, and podcasts for our HackerNoon Reviews segment. So make yourself a fresh cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm your host, Natasha Nel.
I'm Amy Tom.
And I'm Ellen.
And This is Planet Internet. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. First up, big news in the US this week. American Airlines has canceled pretty much everyone's flights owing to staff shortages. This is after they laid off most of their employees during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the CEO takes home a casual $10 million in USD. Last year, after spending most of his spare time lobbying for 3 billion USD in bailout money, only 400 million of which was spent on payroll because, as aforementioned, they laid off most of their staff. So let's go to our newest and most special guest on today's episode of Planet Internet, Ellen Stevens. Welcome to the show. We are extremely excited to have you with us today. You're based in Canada, right? What have you heard of this American Airlines debacle?
Sure. So what I heard was it sounded like he made it seem as though because the shares had fallen in value, so had his sort of income or payout. And by the sounds of it, because there was lobbying done and things like that, the payout was still actually quite significant. And so, it just it doesn't look very sophisticated when you have a company that is laying people off. It's essentially ruining people. This pandemic is ruining people's lives, and then you have CEOs that seemingly still want to cash in as much money as possible. It just it doesn't look great. So
the optics are not great. Yeah.
The optics are not ideal. That's
and
what
sure. I think is interesting is that when we look at this article, it lists the people in power, I guess, and how much their payout actually was, and it's like in the millions. All of these people are white men, except for one who is a white female, who took home the least amount, which was still $2.8 million. But I thought that was interesting, and I just think like people shouldn't be able to have that much money, because the more money you have, the more greedy you get, the more power you have. I doubt that Doug Parker, who took home $7 million, donated any of that to charity or to a good cause. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see this play out when greed takes over, greed and money.
Well, yeah, so usually, when it comes to evaluating someone's wealth, I do think in some cases it's done a little bit kind of in an unfair way. So they'll consider how much shares a person might have in a company, and those shares can always go up, but they can always go down as well. But here we're talking about, actual payouts. So it does seem kind of ironic on the backdrop of what's going on in terms of this pandemic for a lot of people. So, I'm not sure I would be super comfortable taking such a payout in such an instance, but I don't know. I'm not a wealthy person, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This story reminded me of the ongoing drama with Booking.com unfolding here in Europe. I wonder if this has at all been a story in the US or Canada, but in summary, Booking.com has been publicly shamed into repaying 110 million USD that it received in aid from multiple governments across its multiple office locations after Dutch politicians noticed that Booking.com CEO and CFO had compensated themselves over 32 million. Then last week, Italy announces they're investigating Booking.com over suspicion of $180 million tax evasion. So things are just a big, greedy, hot mess over at Booking.com. Amy, have you heard about this? Do you use Booking.com? Will you continue to use Booking.com?
Ooh, okay, amazing questions. I had not heard about this. I'm in Canada, and I looked it up actually. Booking.com, if you didn't know, is based in Amsterdam, which I did not know. So I think that this Booking.com drama is much more prevalent in Europe right now than it is in North America, at least from my standpoint. I had not heard of this, but I have used Booking.com many, many times in the past. I backpacked through Asia and Australia in 2019, so I pretty much almost exclusively use Booking.com or Hostel World. Yeah, I don't know, to basically steal that much money for yourself is wild, especially considering, again, like global pandemic vibes and the fact that a lot of these employees probably got laid off and you're taking home $32 million is kind of ridiculous. Glenn Fogel and David Golden are also white men, for the record, which is wild. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think I will use it again. People shouldn't have this much power, and this corporation shouldn't have this much power too. I guess, like, Booking.com really is one of the world's biggest players, and to even be able to have that much money to take is wild. So yeah, I don't think that this should be a thing. I think there should be more blockers in place, I guess. Not necessarily from, like, government. I don't know how that would work. Now I'm just rambling, but yeah.
Well, there is one government that's very good at regulating things, but we'll get to that story in just a little bit involving crypto and China. Last story on the Eat the Rich theme. Before we get to that, though, arguably the world's most hated CEO, Jeff Bezos, has garnered how many signatures on a petition? I think we're over 100,000 to stop him from returning to Earth after his little visit to space. So yeah, what's your hot take on these developing stories? Are we finally on the cusp of a class war?
Yes. Well, I think too, like, you also take into account the fact that in 2020, like, there's more prevalence to racial awareness as well. There's more prevalence to eating the rich. There's more prevalence to the gap of poor versus rich, and all of these things combined together. And so the more, like, angry people are gonna get about the fact that, like, Jeff Bezos or these other CEOs are taking all of this money for themselves, the more riot potential there will be, or class war potential there will be, I guess. Yeah. I also just think it's funny to imagine, like, Jeff Bezos going up into space for his 11 minutes and then just being like, oh, actually, guys, I gotta get off here. Hold on, can you just drop me off real quick? I'm not allowed to come back.
The petition has spoken, absolutely. And on your theme of the patriarchy and that involvement in this late capitalism phase that we find ourselves in, and all this backlash against CEOs and rich people, I've been, as you know, using TikTok just far too much. And an interesting sort of trend of videos that I've been seeing is men coming out with an enhanced understanding of how they themselves have been oppressed by the sort of patriarchy under capitalism, and how it has actually forced them to internalize all of their emotions and behave a certain way. And so, the awakening, as a lot of people have called our post-pandemic world, has been strong. Ellen, I don't know if in your circles you have similar vibes going on.
In my circle, well, I think the common sort of perspective these days does seem to be that there continues to be obviously inequality in a lot of different ways. I think in some ways it's getting better. Obviously women didn't have rights for a long period of time, and now a lot more women do, at least in some parts of the world, thankfully. So, definitely my circles, whatever they may be, are aware of all these things that are happening, and it's at the forefront of discussion for sure. So I don't. I think it's strange. It's hard for me to really imagine what it would be like to have that sort of wealth. I understand that sometimes that wealth is put into things like investments, but to own 4 different houses and sort of random artifacts.
I'm sure Jeff Bezos has more than 4 houses.
Yeah, well, so at which point do you just become a little uncomfortable? Like, I understand you might buy like a home for a family or for kids, but at which point do you look around and think, do I need this? So, that's a question I have for
Exactly.
the wealthy humans out there.
100%. And you know who else is a wealthy human who is acquiring massive amounts of property? I think he's in the top 4 or 5 property owners in the US is Bill Gates. And I had actually posted on Instagram the other day that I'm sure he's really happy that we've all been so distracted by those 5G nano robot trackers in our vaccines, because he has been meanwhile quietly just buying up property and establishing through lobbying and all other kinds of data ownership and autocracy, pretty much control over the global food system, which is mildly concerning. And I don't know how many people are really talking about that. So exactly what you're saying, right?
It's crazy. Yeah. And like to think too, okay, I hope that I'm articulate on this subject, but the fact that all of these people in power who are billionaires are white men is an issue, because there's no extra diversity in people who have this kind of money, who have the kind of power to sway decisions, to make a change, to send people to space with $28 million. Like, it's wild. Think of how much you could do with that money if you were going to be using it for a different cause. And I'm not saying that these white men have causes that are not important. They're important to them. But if you were to have a Black woman in power, or if you were to have an Asian woman in power, they would have different causes that are important to them. But to have this disparity where only white men have power and riches and are going to care about the causes that white men care about is like, it just further perpetuates the circle of like diversity issues. And how can we help people who are less deemed less important, quote unquote, to society to invest into their causes, or to garner more attention to the things that they're working on, instead of like giving all of this power to Amazon or to all of these people who have the money already. Like, yeah, I don't know.
So just to play devil's advocate a little bit, there are people who are extraordinarily wealthy that are not white men.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But
And
I feel like majority of them are. I don't know. It just
yeah.
feels like that. Maybe it's media perception as well. Like maybe we're only reporting on these people. Like maybe it's me too, because like we're reporting on these white men who are technologists, and technologists in general are more skewed towards male than female. So I don't know.
So that right there, I like this point. I think so. This idea of STEM, kind of being optional, and like I understand kind of the mentality behind that, but I do think there should be um, quite a large initiative to inspire young women and people from all walks of life and genders and whatever you identify as or are, whatever. This idea to make STEM a little bit more exciting and start very young, to inspire people to be just naturally kind of more interested in that, because it is a very important part of our lives. So I think that's a very important point. I don't know like how, in North America, for example, in Canada, there does need to be probably a revamping of what is a focus in education. So definitely that's a great point. It does seem that if you come up with some sort of technological, what do you call it, innovation or new technological thing, your rise to wealth becomes very, very fast. So
Yes, more women in STEM, please.
yes, agreed, very agreed.
I'm just searching on HackerNoon now for stories on STEM. Looks like we've got quite a good couple worth reading. Some of them are on stem cells, which is not the same thing. But
I mean, kind of.
Kind of.
It's still in the STEM category.
Touché. All right, moving on to our next subject for today. Bitcoin dips sharply as China broadens ban. This has been covered widely. Here on CNBC, we have the headline, Bitcoin sinks to 2-week low as China intensifies crypto mining crackdown. So I don't have too much to say by way of explanation on this. Reading from the story, Bitcoin fell as low as 31,000 on Monday morning, dropping below $32,000 for the first time since June 8th. China's crackdown on cryptocurrency mining has extended to the southwestern province of Sichuan, according to reports. The People's Bank of China said Monday it had urged Alipay and some major banks to crack down on crypto mining. So that's not looking good. And just from a personal perspective, I went all on Bitcoin, all in on Bitcoin back when everybody else did. And it's just not been going very well for me. So that's where I stand on this. Anybody want to jump in with a more technical explanation of what the hell's going on here?
Wait, you haven't made any money yet?
I don't think so. I still have to do the conversion between the euros and the dollars, but it's looking pretty similar to me. Maybe $2 or $3 up or down, one of the two.
Interesting. I've discussed this many times on the podcast that investing gives me anxiety. So I have not invested in Bitcoin, crypto, or anything of the like. But I think this is interesting that like it dipped down so significantly. Does the article talk about why?
So let's have a look. Basically, I think that this is similar to Elon Musk's energy consumption concerns. I'm air quoting for our audio listeners. I think that it's probably a massive player in the global scale, and this is just a vote of no confidence again. When China sneezes, Bitcoin catches a cold. But this flexing of regulatory muscle is often just that. In the past 8 years, the story has risen its head at least 3 times. The writer here pointing to how many times we've had to go through this emotional roller coaster. So yes, China's crackdown appears to have led to a significant decline in Bitcoin's hash rate or processing power, which has fallen sharply in the last month, according to data from blockchain.com. An estimated 65% of global Bitcoin mining is done in China. So
Wow.
that'll explain that. It's not good. It's not good for Bitcoin.
Okay, I did not know that.
I didn't know that
That
either.
is like a significant
That's
amount.
a large percentage.
Yeah. So
More
no
than
wonder
half.
they have like such a sway of the market, their majority. That's interesting.
Wow. Well, China's got a lot of people. So if they don't like Bitcoin, Bitcoin's gonna have to figure something out.
Majority wins. Speaking of liking people, changes at Tinder. Tinder wants you to actually talk to people before you match with them, according to The Verge. Reading from the Morning Brew newsletter, yesterday, Tinder announced some of the biggest changes since its 2012 launch to adapt a pandemic-altered dating landscape. Some new features include video. Tinder is letting users attach up to 9 short videos to their profiles. Explore, which is a mode that lets you scan the virtual room before going in and striking up a conversation. And this is my personal favorite, hot takes. Users can discuss their spiciest opinions before matching, which is available oddly between 6 p.m. and midnight on weekdays. I don't know why they've set a time limit on that functionality. But Amy, I know you're a Tinder super user. What's your sort of gut response to this update?
Oh my god, I never want to be called a Tinder super user. I'm dying.
I thought you'd like that.
That's so funny. Okay.
Well, I
have not used Tinder in a long time, like 6 months. I'm really more on the Hinge game now, Natasha.
Got
Tinder.
you.
Listen. Here's the thing. Tinder men are not okay. It's not okay. The landscape over there is not okay. So we are boycotting that personally. But I think I don't know, the option to add videos. I always remember that there was the option to add videos, but maybe now they're doing audio video. Adding the audio component in, which would make it more like TikTok-y, and more appealing to Gen Z. The thing I think is interesting about the video, though, is I remember a few months ago my friend sent me a article about a new dating app that was being created that specifically targets Gen Z people, that was solely videos. So it was basically like TikTok. It's exactly like TikTok, except you swipe right or left on their video. So I was like, I would never do that. I don't know. I would never record a video with audio. I'm a podcaster. I love to talk. I would never do that.
But you have just launched this week HackerNoon's TikTok presence. How can you say you would never record a video with audio? There is a very
for dating
NFTs. Okay, fair enough.
For dating, I don't want anyone to swipe right or left on that NFT video. We're good.
I hear you. Ellen, do you use Tinder or TikTok or Hinge?
No. I question Tinder. I question the motivations there a little bit. TikTok, there was a bunch of security issues with TikTok. So I haven't dived into that whole thing. There's a meme though that I'll share, and it shows a bunch of, senior citizens sitting around the table, and the headline reads, "Millennials discussing TikTok." So that's how I feel about TikTok a little bit.
Okay.
But I did see Amy's TikTok and I support it. I think it's great. I saw it on Instagram. But make sure to follow us on both Instagram and TikTok. So that's it.
Also, for the record, there was a comment on the TikTok about me having a mustache. I do not have a mustache, everyone. It was the lighting. Thank you very much. I'm dying. I laughed for like half an hour about that.
Important
yes, we do
PSA.
read the comments. Yeah. Hello, there are real humans behind this screen.
Brilliant. I like this from the Verge article on the Tinder update. None of these features will be behind a paywall, much like HackerNoon. If you haven't yet, you can download our Free the Internet Chrome extension, which allows you to track and exclude paywalled sites from your search results. Shameless plug happening now. Anyway, moving on to our final segment for today, HackerNoon Reviews, which used to be called HackerNoon Recommends. But the other day, Lee Mark said HackerNoon Reviews, and it just sounds so much better. What do you think?
Love it.
Great. We're going with HackerNoon Reviews. It's now a thing. I'm making it happen.
Great. Excellent.
So we're going around the room and we're talking about our favorite HackerNoon story of the week. And then we're also mentioning our favorite tech product, app, or podcast. So basically hyping whatever's sparking joy for us on planet internet this week. I'll go first. This week, I am hyping the Polar Vantage M2 sports watch. I've had the privilege of reviewing it this week. There'll be a post up on HackerNoon about it tomorrow. So check that out. If you subscribe to the Tech Brief, you'll probably get it because it'll definitely be a top story. Essentially, this watch has revolutionized my relationship with my own sleeping patterns by providing me with so much data. I'm geeking out about it. It tells me essentially how many breaths I take each night, how many sleep cycles. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like heart rates, breathing rates, all of these cool, very geeky type statistics and things that you can use to assess how much rest you got, with the premise being that your recharge rate can be measured, and then you can decide how you're going to spend your energy the next day, which I just think is such a great way of approaching your exercise schedule, for example. They also have this really cool running program template, and you can actually like set up a training plan, and then it integrates with your watch, and you can just like follow the program on your watch. So it's very cool. It's not a smartwatch, so it doesn't have all the distractions. It just has kind of like this focus on your body and your training, which is really cool. The only thing I'd say it's missing is like a place where I can input what I'm eating. Then it would be a fully holistic nutritional sort of tool. But yeah, maybe
that's interesting. It's not a smartwatch.
It's not a smartwatch. Yeah, it's a multi-sport watch. So it does not have, all of your apps and that kind of thing. You can't check your calendar in a way that includes meetings. It just has your training program. What about
notifications?
No, nothing like that. No. I think you could set alarms and things, but it's not going to send you notifications of your messages. It has Spotify integration and GPS, but it doesn't have like, calendar or, anything that I have on my Apple Watch. So that's not what it's kind of about, but it's a very cool watch. So I can recommend. Then I'm hyping in terms of stories on HackerNoon this week. It's an oldie but a goodie, and I'm doing it because of our special guest this week. Ellen Stevens wrote this awesome piece called Biohack, a Super You.
Thank you.
Oh my God, it's your piece.
Yeah, I really, really liked the story. I actually went back to it the other day because I was looking for nutritional advice, and I remembered that you had written this piece. And it's got so many great resources in it in terms of, what your daily vitamin intake is at, Harvard, recommended by Harvard. And it's got a table you can use to see sources of that and how to get it in. And it's just really great. I think this article is so comprehensive and also so simple and well written and easy to understand. But at the same time, from a writing perspective, it really nails the disclaimer language, which I think is always so hard to do, especially when you're writing around difficult topics and controversial topics like nutrition or anything these days, really. This article really like nails the approaching nutrition and your body from an individual. There's no one size fits all perspective. So do check that out. It's called Biohack a Super You Part 1. Looking forward to Part 2, Ellen. Just a little side note there. Little slight side note, just a subtle hint. Yeah, it was a great piece and you're a great writer. So thank you for that on HackerNoon.com. Amy, what are you hyping up this week?
Okay, so I just used a vacuum that is the kind that is attached to the wall, like you pull it out of the wall, which is not a new piece of technology, but I've never used it before, and I'm so hype on it because I love cleaning tech. I'm obsessed with vacuuming, and it was like, it was beautiful, guys, because I felt like there was no motor in the vacuum when I was holding it. You know, when you can feel the vacuum going? I couldn't feel the vacuum going because it was all in the wall. It was beautiful. And yes, I'm obsessed with vacuuming and loved the vacuum in the wall. I would love to have that in my future house. So that's where I'm at with my tech. The other piece of like tech tip that I wanted to give is that I just discovered, speaking of TikTok, I just discovered that via Instagram it's way easier to record a TikTok and save it and then upload it to TikTok than it is to natively record in TikTok. It took me so long to make that NFT video, guys. But in Instagram, the UI is much better. So do it in Instagram first, then upload it to TikTok.
So are you creating a reel?
Yes, basically you're creating a reel and then saving it and then putting it up as a TikTok because the TikTok UI is much easier to use. Yep. So
you mean the Instagram UI? Yeah.
Yes, the Instagram UI. So instead of wasting 2 hours trying to figure out how to navigate the TikTok UI, I will now be living on Instagram instead. So that is my tech tip of the week. And then I also want to throw over to this article that I edited this week, which I thought was super interesting. It's about the elimination of passwords. So essentially he was talking about how like in 1961 passwords launched and someone was just like, hey, maybe we should have passwords. And then everyone was like, cool, let's do it. And then now that we are in 2021, everyone's like, wow, look at all these problems with passwords that nobody thought about. Maybe we should just eliminate passwords and move over to other authentication methods that are not password based, like implementing more things that have to do with like 2FA or multi-factor authentication. Or I think like what's interesting is like the rise of digital identity and like having a like almost like a digital passport or something that just authenticates you without having to use a password, so you can authenticate on any website. So very interested to see how the future of security and authentication and passwords comes into play. And yeah, I thought this article was really interesting.
Question for both of you on that. I think it was at a HackerNoon event we had in London 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, that we met somebody who had chips in his hand with which he could pay and unlock his car and do a bunch of things. Would you get that done?
Whoa, that's like Black Mirror shit.
Right?
No, that scares me.
It's interesting. I mean, right now I have, for example, my watch can unlock my phone if I have a mask on, and my face can't unlock my phone. So there's those kinds of things. And I do notice how convenient I find Apple Pay to be. And if I could just walk out of the door knowing that I've got everything on me and not have to do the wallet, cell phone check, like, you know.
I'm definitely for the idea of having it in the watch format. I'm not so for the idea of embedding it into my skin.
Got you.
Yeah, that's where you lose me, I think.
I think it's probably the future, but I don't like it. I think there are places already that workers have to do that kind of stuff, but
what?
Yeah. Well, I think I've read something. I want to say it's in China. Maybe it's. I have to double check what the article was. Regardless, I don't like the idea of being chipped and monitored. It is not something that I'm super comfortable with. It just seems, it's not like there was a few good articles about actually cyber and just security in general. But even if you're a person that has nothing to hide, there's all sorts of different things that can happen, that people can take your information, monitor it, and whomever is monitoring this information could either be a good person or a bad person. So it's, quite a lot of data that you're likely transmitting if you have a chip inside you. And it's already,
Mm-hmm.
pretty creepy with apps and phones and things like that. The amount of, actually, there is an article recently that was published on HackerNoon. I think it's called Why Your Location Matters. I hope you guys can't hear my stomach making noises. So yeah, it's that's a good piece. It talks about how, I think, when you post a photo on Facebook or something of that nature, there's information associated with the photo as to your general location or something of that nature. So if you don't clean that, it sort of allows whomever knows about how to access this information to know roughly where you are. So there are, it does creep me out quite a bit.
Yeah. Right?
I hear you. And as an African, I've got to say that it's the first thought that comes to my head is that now, the things that get stolen back home on my cell phone and, properties that are not a part of my person. So what becomes the target when the authentication is in me or the money is in me, somehow?
That's true.
That's badly articulated, but you know what I'm trying to say without grossing anybody out. I'm just like, I go straight to that possibility.
But then you're like, take it out of my wrist.
Yeah, I have
Come
nothing to
on,
offer.
come
I have
and
no
get
leverage.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Ellen, do you have any favorite stories from HackerNoon this week, or tech products, apps, anything you want to hype up?
Sure. So the only product I just wanted to give Natasha a shout out is probably Notion, because I've been using it and it's been working. So good job, Notion. And with respect to the article, so this is something I've been a little obsessed with. There's a piece called How to Hack a PC's Webcam and Mic Using Ninja as Spyware.
Oh,
And
no.
so a lot of people make fun of me for having tape over my cameras, and so I'd like them to reconsider making fun of me, because here's a piece written describing how to do just that. So it does happen. So it's okay to leave a piece of tape on your camera, because if you're getting undressed and the camera is pointing at you, then who knows who may be watching that. So maybe you're into public display, maybe you're not. But regardless, you probably want that done if you approve it, not someone just randomly watching you. At least
Brilliant.
Yeah,
this is Ellen's PSA. It's okay to have tape over your mic.
Way to make
over
a
your
point.
Camera.
Way to make a point, Ellen. I love it. I think you heard it first
Fair
on
play.
HackerNoon. How to hack a PC's webcam and mic using Ninja as spyware. It was published on June 18th on hackernoon.com. Get in there, or skip reading the article and just go straight to putting tape over your webcam. I know it's the first thing I'm going to be doing when we're done here. So thank you so much, Ellen, for that tip. Any other hot tech tips this week? Any other general life tips? Anything, parting words? Anybody wants to share with our humble audience before we go?
Ling just sent me a video on Instagram this morning, and it was Kristen Bell and Jimmy Fallon singing a song about petting dogs, and it was delightful. Everyone should watch it. That's all I got.
Who doesn't need that?
I just wanted to quickly say right now we have a small mini thank you contest happening for our whomever, members, just visitors, etc. And what you have to do is go over to Dig and submit either your article that you've written or just an article that you like. There's instructions. You'll be able to find our contest. It's called Do You Dig Free Gear? And we're essentially giving away a few t-shirts. So you get entered into a draw. And then if you're lucky, you will get a HackerNoon t-shirt. So that's our little thing that's happening. It goes on to the 28th. So if you go to @HackerNoon contests, just at the actual account, you'll be able to see it. So yeah, I'm just currently directing. Oh, there we go. Scroll down a little bit. I'm just directing Natasha. There it is. So,
Perfect.
it's a bit
We'll
of
throw that link in the show notes then.
Absolutely. For our audio listeners, we're looking at hackernoon.com/u/hackernoon contests. It's a great place to find out about all of the writing contests that we're running at the moment. And thank you, Ellen. That's a really great plug because, for example, in the Velo by Wix writing competition, $4,250 was up for grabs in monthly story rewards. So yeah, check out the Dig story on that profile and find out how you can get in on some winning action. I think that's it from us this week on Planet Internet. Thank you so much for listening. Please do hit like, share, subscribe, whatever you need to do to help us out. Spread the word about This Week on Planet Internet. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Natasha, and that's it from us. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Ellen, for being here.
And thank you to Alex for editing the episode.
That's right. Thank you to our podcast editor, Alex Cobb. We appreciate you and everything that you do and every that you edit out. You are our hero. All right. Bye, everybody. See you on the internet.
Bye.
Bye.